And to discuss the biggest event of Techtember, I'm joined by two fellow tech geeks. I am honored, humbled to be in the August company in September of MJ, none other than Michael Josh, and the one and only Nishant Padhiar. Guys, what a pleasure to have you with us on Tech Today.
Thank you so much, Aayush. Thank you for having us.
I'm excited to talk to you today.
Likewise, Michael. Nishant, I want to start off by asking you, September 12th, the big Apple event. Now, you are an Apple regular. What is that one product announcement that you are most excited about?
Well, usually it's a product that comes towards the end. And I'm not talking about the one more thing sort of a reveal, but usually they save the pro models of the iPhones for the very end. And those are the ones that usually have all the features thrown at them, including the kitchen sink. But hopefully we don't want the kitchen sink this time. We just want a good zoom. So I'm really excited about the leaks that have come out so far on the internet, having suggesting that there's going to be a 6x zoom. So I'm really looking forward to that, because the more and more you use the Samsung cameras, apart from everything else, everybody talks a lot about the great video quality of the iPhone, macro quality of the iPhone. The one thing that it really lacks and it loses out to the Samsung is the zoom quality. And I think that is what they will be addressing this year with the 15 Pro, probably with a periscope lens. Even if not, hopefully we'll get a 6x optical zoom. So I'm looking forward to that.
Michael, kitchen sinking aside, now that's an interesting one because Nishant seems to be excited about a potential periscope lens. But do you think, from all the years that you've been tracking Apple and its Apple events, that could be a reality? Could the iPhone camera finally be getting better? Also, will they be fixing the highlights blowing up all over?
Apple has always been a leader when it comes to like cameras. There was a year when Samsung was really catching up. But then, iPhone, don't forget, iPhone introduced Zoom with 2x Zoom many years ago. And now, obviously, the likes of Samsung and its other competitors are now providing even more Zoom. So I think users, some pro users probably want more zoom. That's actually a question that we kind of have to ask ourselves. As tech geeks, of course, I'll have as much zoom as you can give me. But does the average user really need that much zoom? Is 3x enough? Maybe it is. To be honest with you, I'll be happy with 5x. But there are certain scenarios in day-to-day life where 2x and 3x is also just fine with me as well.
One of the product announcements which don't get as much traction as the iPhone around the same time happens to be on my wrist. And last year, when we saw the Ultra announced, there was so much said and so much, spoken about on social media, especially. But honestly, I think the Ultra was a game changer, at least in the Apple ecosystem of things, in terms of battery life, what it could do in the rugged outdoors. Now there's talk of an Ultra 2. Now, Nishant, it's interesting because, you've been using Apple Watches for a while as well. What the Ultra did was being a true disruptor in the space. Now, let's not compare it to the Garmin's of the world because, well, that's another use case. But yes, we could be inspired by Garmin in terms of battery life. But what else can the Ultra 2 perhaps do, which could really level up from the first Ultra?
Well, I'll just be speculating here, but I really think that Apple is the one company and brand that actually has the ecosystem to enhance the potential of the Watch Ultra hand in hand, or in this case, hand with ear, because they can actually monitor, a lot of things about your health using the AirPods as well, and the blood pressure you can actually monitor through your ears. And Apple being Apple, they just are in a much better position to actually blend all of these gadgets together and give you a much more detailed report of your health, physical health as well, sleep health as well. So I think the next update for the Ultra 2 might not be so groundbreaking in terms of the battery life or the display, which are already fantastic already. I think it might be more about the integration with other Apple products, other Apple wearables.
Interesting, Michael. Are you also one of those Apple Watch fans, or are you, one of those guys who prefers his Garmin's and Fitbits and whatnot? Are you in the Apple Watch ecosystem as well as we speak?
I am very much an Apple Watch user. I'm the kind of guy who worries about closing his rings every day. And now as I've gotten older as an adult, I do like my fancy watches, my my analog watches, which means sometimes I have to take off my Apple Watch, which kind of messes with my rings. But I really, I've always used the smallest Apple Watch every year until last year when I had to test out the Apple Watch Ultra. And I'm a huge fan as a runner. I love being able to go on trips for the weekend, turn on low
Hmm.
power mode or battery saver mode, and have my watch last for 3 4 days without needing a charge. And I really love that action button. I think while I don't really know what else I'd like in an Apple Watch Ultra 2,
Hmm.
it's that
Hmm.
some of those features that I'd actually like to see on other devices. And we actually hear about that action button potentially coming to the iPhone, because
That's
I
true.
love being able to start and stop my runs with the press of a button. But having that one programmable button on an iPhone or on smaller Apple Watches would be great too.
Nishan, do you think that's a possibility? Do you think that they're going to come up with an action button, or are they just going to get rid of the mute key? Is the volume rocker going to change? What's your best bet?
I would suppose that probably it might make it to the iPhone as well, because Apple also has a history of transporting one feature from one product to another product. Case in point, the digital crown,
Mm.
which made its way very well. In fact, I think it was executed superbly from the Apple Watch into the AirPods Max, and it works brilliantly as a volume rocker as well.
You know what's interesting is that at WWDC, we saw what Apple Vision Pro was all about. In fact, you guys, I'm guessing, spent some time with that particular device as well. Now, there was an announcement, a lot of buzz, and then we've not heard too much ever since. Here in India, there's not much talk of a launch that's imminent in any way, but now that there's another Apple event, the world's media will descend upon Apple Park, Steve Jobs Theatre. Will there be more announcements, Nishant, you think, about the Apple Vision Pro or compatibility in the larger Apple ecosystem? Because honestly, if there's one place where they should be announcing it, it should be this particular event.
That's a very good question, Ayush. And I think, again, Apple always plays it safe, especially when it comes to a new product category. And this is a
Mhm.
genre defining category as well. People think it's a VR glass. It's not a VR headset. It's a mixed reality headset, as Apple also likes to call it. And they have taken their time to make sure that they have the right partnerships in place. They have the right dev support in place. And it's already been about close to 5 months since we saw the first prototypes and the working prototypes of the Vision Pro. And even then, the demos that they actually showed a few of us behind closed doors were outstanding. Like, in fact, some of the things they could not even show in the keynote because they said it would just not translate on a 2D
Fair enough.
screen, on your laptop, on your TV. Those were the kind of experiences we actually got to see when we wore the Vision Pro ourselves. So I'm sure that they're going to take their time. The announcement is going to be on new partnerships, on what have they been able to crack in terms of content partners,
Hmm.
gaming partners, maybe content, exclusive content made for the Vision Pro. It could be by Nat Geo, by Discovery, by
Hmm.
Disney. And Apple, I think, again, is in a very good spot of channeling their resources and making sure that they get the big names on board and excited. I mean, they had the Disney CEO on stage during the Vision Pro launch, and if he's excited, so am I.
Nishant, I can't see so many gray hairs on your forehead, but that's a lot of wisdom. And we appreciate that because that's the sort of insights we want on tech today. Michael, now it's a little bit of a bummer that Nishant and I are talking about this here in Mumbai, and we're not going to get to see the Vision Pro. There's no real announcement for us here in India or other parts of Asia. But in the US, I'm guessing your community, the guys who are tuned in to Gadget Match and your content, must be very excited about the Vision Pro and the potential that it comes with.
That's always the struggle, right? Whenever there's a big announcement, you kind of, or a new feature or a new service, you want to be able to play with it first. And from what I hear, Apple is on target to really launching the device in early 20 to 24.
Right.
But what I think, if I think the announcement potentially could be, see, the problem is it's only a limited select number of journalists and media who've actually tried it on for size.
That's
And I
right.
think what Apple needs to do, and I think what Apple will do, is probably start allowing for scheduling a demo at an Apple store.
That's right.
That's what I think they're going to do, so that the public can actually book a slot, come into the store, and then try it. Maybe select Apple stores. I don't know how they're going to do that. So I'd probably expect them to kind of roll out some sort of option as
Hmm.
we approach their launch date, because people do need to be able to try it on for size if they're really going to be spending, what, $3,000 for a new gadget that they have never seen before. I'm really excited. And yeah, I'm just glad that I'm at the right place at the right time.
We're glad and we're really happy to hear that as well, Michael. But The one more thing moment, and we need to do that one more thing, Nishant, on Tech Today as well. What is that one more thing? I'm going to come to you, Nishant, after we're getting Michael's take on this. What is that one more thing moment that one, you expect, Michael, and two, you think is most likely?
To be honest with you, I don't think there's going to be a really crazy one more thing moment at this iPhone launch. Is really going to be all about the new iPhones. You know, what we haven't talked about is the lack of is the transition from Lightning to USB-C. That's something that I'm also excited for. I think the iPhones will stand on their own. There's probably going to be an Apple Watch announcement as well, but I don't really expect anything crazy from Apple apart from what's already on the lineup. But maybe I'm wrong, and I'd love to be surprised.
Oh, fair enough. That's a very balanced answer, MJ. I'm guessing the jet lag is catching up with you. You've been traveling so much for tech events. It is Techtember, but I'm glad that's a very balanced approach. Nishant, I want something a little more juicy because, well, we expect a one more thing moment. Is it going to be something in the world of spatial audio? Is it going to be something from the dev side? Is this whole line between WWDC and the fall event really blurring? What's going to happen? What's that one more thing moment?
Well, unfortunately, I would want to echo my sentiments with Michael because I
Damn
think
it.
they've already done the big one more thing announcement at WWDC. But I really wish that like you in fact brought up a very interesting point about spatial audio, and I think Apple is very well positioned now, with the HomePod success, with the AirPod success, to actually come up with a complete 5.1 simulation sort of a spatial audio system. It could be
Right.
in the form of an Apple soundbar, like they are envisioning of a soundbar, how it should be, or maybe the ability to have true 5.1 or 7.1 and beyond, like even Dolby Atmos with a multiple HomePod setup, if at all. But I don't think Apple will do it because they're all about simplifying things and not adding stuff. But I really wish that the one more thing could be the next generation of the AirPods Max, because we are hitting the timeline about a 3-year mark, where it was first announced in 2020. It's 2023. It's about 3 years. I think it's well overdue for a refresh. And it's not been their most successful product, of course, because
That's
of
true.
but people who do use it, especially fans of active noise cancellation, fans of Apple ecosystem, I think they really swear by it. So I am hoping that they actually have some sort of a refresh for the AirPods Max.
It wasn't their most successful product. And also, Michael, I think we can expect a lot of memes like the last time as well from that announcement. But Michael, I'm going to toss it to you. So would you prefer, for your noise cancellation needs, an updated, AirPods Max or Sony XM5s? Now that's a geeky question for Mr. Gadget Match.
Oh, you're putting me on the spot here. Well, I really do love my AirPods Max. I wish they were lighter. That's the only thing. I love the design. They stand out. And I think I bought blue ones the last time around, and I've kind of changed my mind. I think I want black ones or silver ones this time around. And I was thinking of buying a pair, but I already have 2 lying around. So I'm going to wait. I think it's also just to kind of change the subject very quickly. We're at a point where Apple has really, if you look at Apple's lineup, it's pretty complete. After they announced their transition to Apple Silicon, you have MacBook Airs of every size, MacBook Pros of every size. We finally got the complete Mac family is complete. And then you have this special. I prefer the one more thing to not be something that you expect every show. We got one big surprise. You didn't know a lot about it. There were not a lot of leaks enough. So I still kind of want to enjoy, selfishly, because I get to go to these events, but I still want to be able to go to a keynote, be surprised, and feel really giddy afterwards.
It could also be a new iMac, I think, because even the last time the iMac was refreshed has been a while. So and no one's really speaking about the iMac. It's still a great form factor, I know, but again, it has room for improvement, and it doesn't have the new silicon yet. So that could be. It's not worthy of a one more thing sort of a moment. Maybe it could have its own online announcement, or maybe in the October event when they do iPads and some light refreshes of MacBooks. It could be around that time.
Well, since we're all really jotting down our wish list, I'm going to chime in here as well. The one thing that I want from Apple is that, Mac OS and iPad OS converge somehow, and we get this super device, which you can use just like your MacBook, but you have touch functionality just like your iPad. Maybe that's wishful thinking, but one day, guys, one day we will get that device. But the other thing I want to talk about was that it's kind of interesting now with how Google has been building on their Pixel lineup as well of late. Fantastic cameras there as well, Nishant. We were talking about Samsung earlier, but in terms of still photography, I think with the computational photography algorithm, Google does a fairly decent job with not so superior hardware, so to speak. But something I found really interesting was the announcement that Google made with that really cute video that they put up with the iPhone and the Pixel going out for a spa date and talking about what's new. Is that a new rivalry brewing in the tech scene? Is that something that we can expect? And honestly, as a neutral, that's any tech geek would be excited about really a competitor being added to the mix and the Pixel really leveling up and taking on the iPhone 15 or whatever you have next.
Well, but there's no doubt that Google makes some great hardware. It's just that their marketing is not up to scratch, with Apple's. So they just can't make their great tech desirable as much as Apple's. They do have great tech. They did have some flaws initially for their hardware in terms of the quality and manufacturing. They evened that out, but now I think it's the ball is in the marketing department's court, to be honest, because the engineering is really hitting it out of the park. It's just the marketing team that is not being able to drum up enough hype for their products like the way Apple does.
Is the global media and the entire influencer fraternity also very excited about the Pixel announcement? Can they actually take on the iPhone?
Actually, Pixels are great devices, and they're a fan favorite, especially amongst the tech community. And I think it's a really good point, worth pointing out that in 2023, while Google has really ramped up its marketing for the Pixel and the Pixel Fold, it's still not enough. And they're also not available in as many countries as they need to be to really achieve or enjoy the success that maybe a Samsung or an Apple competitor is currently enjoying. And there are high expectations because Apple makes iOS and Google makes Android. But speaking of what Google's really done well this year is the Pixel Fold. And I think the question that I get asked from a lot of friends, a lot of just average users, not even techies, is when is Apple going to make a foldable? We're not going to see it this year. I don't even know if we're ever going to see it, but it's something that I actually would love to see it, just like we all felt about Vision Pro. Maybe if Apple does it, they'll do it really well, and that iOS will actually be optimized for such a form factor, which is, I think, still one of the failings of Android today, even if Google makes the Pixel and Android.
MJ, I share your sentiment, but again, that's wishful thinking. And let's keep our fingers crossed for when that does happen. But you made a very pertinent point about launching in key markets. Nishant, something that's changed over the past few years is India featuring high on the list of a lot of tech companies. We saw that with the Pixel launch last year, where, we did have a Pixel launch event, pretty much on the same timelines as the rest of the world. We didn't see the Fold here, but I think at least the fact that we are seeing the premium devices coming here with the world, now with the iPhone, and we saw all the camaraderie and all the celebration with Tim Cook's visit here in India, and then the Apple Store launch. Now, when we talk about how, iPhones are being made in India, the entire China plus one strategy, how India is becoming a hub for, the tech community and the world at large, what do you think about, I'm talking about several things, but the question is very simple, Nishant, which is one question that everyone watching tech today or consuming our content asks me, which is, iPhone sasta hoga, and for MJ and the global community, will the iPhone get cheaper because it's manufactured here in India?
Well, it's a very hard question to answer because it's not only about a single thing; it's about the entire supply chain. And as anybody who's into the luxury business or the tech business knows, that the prices for the raw components, for the raw materials, for the distribution itself have gone through the roof over the last 2-3 years, ever since we were hit by some Chinese bug. But I think timelines overall have been pulled back significantly, and for Apple specifically, I think we will see not a significant change, but at least a marginal change in prices and in terms of timelines, because they have a very strong partnership and a manufacturing hub in India as well. And it's not only to make backdated iPhones; they're also manufacturing the latest generation products in India now. Will we see a drastic drop in price? No, because Apple always buffers its prices, for any sort of a devaluation of the currency. So they always want to be in a safe spot where they don't price their products in such a way that maybe 6 months later or 8 months later in the product life cycle. And as we all know, Apple products have a very long life cycle. I mean, they're still selling the 12 and 13 in India.
Absolutely.
So because of that, I don't think we'll see a significant change in prices of the new models. But the older models, yes, for sure, we'll see probably a 20-25% drop in those prices.
Michael, over to you.
Speaking of affordable iPhones, there was I don't know, there is or was an iPhone SE, and there also is or was an iPhone Mini at some point. And my hope, when they kind of killed it from their lineup, was that it would come back as the new iPhone SE. Maybe that would be a great one more thing as well, because Apple still has offered historically an older model with newer-ish hardware and gave it a really good price.
Fair enough. We are expecting top dollar premium products here as well, and the entire gamut. Now that we have Apple stores here, and all these tech brands are really gunning for the Indian market. But Nishant and MJ, the moral of the story is that the Tech Today community is watching you guys, and when you all are traveling all over the world for these big tech events across Techtember and Techtober, everyone's going to write to Michael to perhaps get a few devices from whichever parts of the world he's traveling from. MJ, we hope to host you here in India. Nishant, what a pleasure to have you on the show as always, guys. I'm excited about this particular event, but we're also going to connect after the event and let's find out how many of your predictions were accurate, how many of them were just wishful thinking. But I really appreciate you guys joining us here on Tech Today.
Thank you, Aayush. Pleasure.
And can't wait to catch up with you guys soon.